Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now on today's video, we're going to do a beginner level sewing project, and that is to make a lined zipper pouch. Now this may look a little bit complex, but if you follow me step by step, even if you're a beginner, you'll be able to do this project also. Let's start by looking at the things that I'll use in today's video. And we're going to start by looking at the zipper. This is considered a 5-inch zipper. So from here to the top of the pull is about 5 inches. Overall, this zipper is about 6 3/4 inches wide. Based upon these measurements, I made a template that I used to cut my fabric. So if I lay my zipper on here, you can see that my fabric is the same width as the overall length of the zipper. So I cut my fabric at 6 3/4 inches wide and 4.5 inches tall. I also noted on it that that's for a 5-inch zipper. The finished pouch is going to be about 5.5 inches wide and 3 3/4 inches tall. And that's very similar to this pouch that I made some time ago. This is the outside fabric, and this is some really cute fabric that my daughter and I found at Hobby Lobby. Now it is very, very thin, so I did put some fusible interfacing on the back. This is a very thin fusible interfacing. I got it on Amazon. It came in a package like this. This is totally optional, but if you're interested, I'll put a link to it in the video description. For the liner, I have this black fabric. So originally I was going to put kind of an orangey brown zipper on it, but once I started thinking about it, I wanted to match my zipper to the inside liner fabric. Notice that my fabric really doesn't have any particular direction. It can face either way. If yours does, it really doesn't make it any more complex. You just have to be aware of it, and you have to take it into account when you're putting your pieces of fabric together. I'll also use some clips. Now, if you prefer pins, those are fine too. I just really love working with clips. I have my little mini iron and a Cricut mat that I can iron on. I've also pre-ironed my pieces. Now, when I'm sewing, I don't consider ironing optional, but in the end, that is totally up to you. I also have some scissors that I use only on fabric. And then I have some pinking shears. These are optional as well. So let's go ahead and start by piecing our fabric together. We're going to start with one of the pretty pieces of fabric, or the outside pieces, and one piece of the lining, as well as our zipper. Now my lining has no top or bottom, but if yours does, you're going to start by putting your lining down pretty side up. Then you'll take your zipper, you want it right side up, and you're going to have it flush with the top of your lining fabric. You're also going to have the ends together. So we have liner pretty side up, zipper right side up. Then we're going to take our outside fabric, and it's going to be pretty side down. So I'm going to take a minute to get all these flush, and then I'll clip them together. Now down here at the end where your zipper pull is, it causes just a little bit more work. It also causes the fabric to look like it's not really lined up correctly. Because of the bulk here, it kind of pulls your fabric. So it may not look like it's lined up correctly. But if you have your sides together, the bottom together, and if this looks a little off, that's okay. But you do want to try to do as good of a job as you can at lining those up. Now I want to be more particular about lining the top up, and if I have a little bit of my lining showing or a little extra of my outside fabric, that's okay, but make sure it's just a little bit. And because this zipper does cause some issues, I actually like to come right over here and put a clip on the side. That just kind of holds it together in the correct place. Let's go ahead and put one at the other side as well. Now I'm going to bring my sewing machine out What we're going to do is we're going to stitch along this side, and I'm not going to use a zipper foot. I just want this to be very beginner friendly, so I'm going to use my regular foot. Now if you use a zipper foot, you're going to have less of the zipper tape showing. By not using a zipper foot, I'm going to have more of the fabric of the zipper exposed. But for today, I'm fine with that. Also, if this is your first time to do one of these pouches, give yourself some grace. Use some fabric and a zipper that you're not too concerned about, because it may not turn out perfect and it may take a few times before you get what's acceptable to you. I've done a lot of these and mine might not turn out perfect. The main thing is get your machine out, start doing some projects, start practicing, and you'll get better. Because of that zipper pull, I have a couple of things that I could do. You don't want your machine to hit the zipper pull, and it's kind of wide. So I could either start sewing here, go all the way to the right, then I could open the zipper and go back and finish here. That's one option. Otherwise, I could start sewing at this end, since the zipper pull is here. I could start sewing at this end, sew down part way, move my zipper pull to this end, and then keep sewing. I think that's what I'll do today. Now the zipper pull is right here, so I'm actually going to start by putting my fabric to the right side of my needle. Also, I have quite a bit of extra thread, but I'll trim that off later. So I'm going to go ahead and remove a clip here. And then I want to try to have my fabric lined up pretty much with the left side of the foot. Once I do, I'm going to go ahead and lower my needle. And I'm doing that by cranking the wheel on the right side of my machine. And then I'll lower the presser foot. Now we're just going to sew along here, and I'll stop once I get down toward this end. We'll move the zipper at that time. Now I'm climbing over that little zipper stop, so I'm just cranking it by hand. Now that I'm past that, I can speed up. I want to stop with my needle down in the fabric. I'm going to raise my presser foot, and then let's go ahead and find that zipper pull and move it to the opposite end. Now I had to wrestle with that quite a bit because I did have the fabric turned this way, but I made it through, so now let's line up this end. Notice that my sewing isn't all the way to the end. That's okay, because we're actually going to stitch over this later. Now let's go ahead and open this up, see what it looks like. And first of all, let me go ahead and close the zipper. And that looks pretty good. It's going to look better when we iron it. Now some people actually put a little top stitch over the top of your main piece of fabric. When I'm doing larger pouches or things like that, I do like to do that. With these smaller ones, I actually think it looks better without it. But I definitely want to iron this down. But first I'm going to do this other side. So let's go ahead and pull this fabric out of the way. Just kind of finger press it for now. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. So we're laying our liner fabric down pretty side up, if you have a pretty side. Then you're going to put the top of your zipper, or this side of your zipper, flush with the top of the liner. Then we're going to put our outside fabric pretty side down. So we're going to line it all up, clip it, and then we'll come back and sew this side. Now because we already have some fabric attached to the zipper, It takes a little more work to do this, but it's really not difficult at all. You're just doing the exact same thing that you did the first time when you put your 2 pieces of fabric with the zipper. All right, so let's figure out, here's the zipper pull. So this time I'm going to start at this end. So we're going to line up the right side of the foot with the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and drop my needle down and then drop my presser foot. I'll start by coming forward a stitch or two, doing a little back stitch, and then I'll start coming forward. We'll stop once we get close to this end. We're going to stop with our needle down, lift the presser foot, and you'll see it's easier to get the zipper out of the way this time. All right, let's go ahead and close that zipper, and now it's time to press our fabric. I want to go ahead and take the 2 pieces of outside fabric, kind of tug on those, and do the same thing with the liner. Just pull it all away from that zipper. Now this zipper is nylon, so I have to be careful. I don't want to put a lot of heat onto it. So I'm just going to go right along this edge here and iron that down. I want it to be nice and crisp. Now remember when I said mine might not be perfect either? It's really not. There's a little more space here than there is here. There's a little more space on this side than there is this side, but I think it still looks great. And look, you can see it coming together. So here's the next step. First of all, we're going to go ahead and move the zipper at least to the center, if not a little to the left of center. Now we're going to put our 2 pieces of outside fabric together. And I'm just going to start by clipping the corners. And I'm going to do the same with the lining. So I'm just going to put those corners together. I might have to adjust it a little bit later, but for now I want to start with those corners together. And then I'm also going to trim off this excess thread. Now this next part is where I've seen it done 2 different ways. Right here where your zipper is, it's bulky. And that bulk has to go one direction or the other. So I saw one person that said, turn the teeth toward the pretty fabric or your outside fabric. So in that case, it would look like this. I saw another person that said, turn your extra zipper tape and the teeth of your zipper to the liner fabric. I've tried it both ways, and I like it turned to the liner fabric. So I'm going to make sure those pieces of fabric, let me show you that, are together or lined up, and I'm going to clip it. So with my zipper being black, it's kind of hard to see, but I want to show you. The teeth are pushed to the liner side, and then I have it clipped together. So let me go to this side and do the same thing. So you see how I pushed the extra tape and those teeth to the liner side? Then I lined up the fold of the outside fabric together and clipped it. Now that we've done that, let's see if our corners need adjusted. So I have more fabric on this side than this side, so I'm going to go ahead and unclip it and pull it tight. So you can see there's a little extra here, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather have my fabric smooth than end up exactly together. All right, let's put another clip right here. Now this side is actually good, so we'll put a clip in the middle. And that looks good as well. Another really important thing is you have to leave an opening in your liner side also so you can flip this right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and put one more clip here and one more clip over here with a pouch this small and with fabric that's not real thick. You don't need a huge opening. Mine's going to probably be about 2.5 inches or so, maybe 3 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from here to the corner. With my needle down, I'll lift the presser foot, pivot my fabric, also all the way along here, along this side, back to the bottom, and over to this clip. When I start, I'll do a little back stitch. When I end, I'll do a little back stitch. Also, when it's time for the needle to go over the zipper area, I'm just going to hand crank it. Now, I'm going to use a pretty large inseam, close to about 1/2 inch or so. But that's not so large that you'll go over the teeth or the metal parts. You want to make sure you don't take your machine over those metal parts. It could probably handle the nylon zipper teeth, but not the metal parts. If you do that, you're probably going to break a needle. Now my spacing worked out really well, but if yours doesn't, either go back a stitch, go forward a stitch, and then pivot. I went ahead and I cut off the excess thread, and I want to talk about this because notice when I was stitching, my inseam didn't stay consistent. It wasn't perfect. My 2 side inseams didn't turn out the same, but I'll bet this is still going to end up being really cute. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and clip the excess fabric on the corners. Now don't get too close to your stitches, but you want to get rid of some of that bulk so that when you turn this right side out, your corners look like corners and they're not too rounded. So I'm going to go around, clip all 4 corners. Then we're going to take off some of the excess fabric around the outside. Now before I start doing this, we are eventually going to have to sew this. And I'll show you how that happens in just a minute. What you need to know now is though, I want to keep a lot of this excess fabric where my opening is. That'll be important in a minute. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my pinking shears and I'm going to cut excess fabric off. Again, not getting too close to the stitches because I don't want those to pull. When I get to the zipper area, I'm not going to use my pinking shears over that. I'm actually going to use an old cruddy pair of scissors to do that part. I don't want to use my good scissors for this. Okay, so now we are going to turn this into a zipper pouch. We're going to go through our opening, and I'm just going to stick some fingers in there, and then I'm going to find a corner from the outside, push it through, then I'll just keep pushing through. For now, I want to pull my lining fabric, after I unzip it all the way, pull my lining fabric out. And I'm doing that so that I can really get into these corners and get them squared out. Now with this fabric, I can just do it with my finger, but you could use a chopstick or a turning tool. But with this thinner fabric, I can just use my finger. All right, that looks pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and push out the corners up by the zipper. Now we still need to do something with that lining. Remember we have that hole in it? So I'm going to go ahead and keep it out. And I'm poking the corners out just so I can get it nice and smooth and straight. So I'll poke those corners out up here. And again, that is just to get your fabric straight. Now if I tug on those corners, well, let me get this one a little bit better. If I tug on those corners and kind of push my fabric in, all I'm going to do now, really close to the edges, I'm going to sew up that opening. Because it's in the lining and your lining is inside, you're never going to really notice it. I guess you could use hem tape or something like that, but for me, I like to just sew it up. Again, it's going to be inside, you're not really going to notice it. Here's the seam, and I should have put black thread in it, but it's going to be inside, it's not going to show. So let's just go ahead and push it inside now. And you want to get those corners together. It's just going to make it lie flatter if you do that. So push out those corners in the inside. And we're ready to zip it up. Let's take a look at it. It turned out really cute. Look how nice that looks. Now I have a little bit of a gap down here. I could have sewn a little closer to that. I think this end looks really good. And I'm not unhappy with this end, but I could have sewn just a little bit closer. So the last thing I'm going to do is just give this a little press. And don't skip the pressing part. It makes it look so much more professional. Isn't that cute? Just a great size for some dollar bills, some credit cards, a little bit of change, rewards cards, things like that. Something that'll easily fit into my purse. So thanks again for joining me today. I hope the video was helpful. If you're a beginner sewer, I hope it was easy to follow. Let me know if you have any suggestions for me. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. If you do, tap that bell and select the all notifications. That way YouTube lets you know anytime I upload new content. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you in my next video.